I'm Melanie Robles, and I'm an associate director for ASAP at Bronx Community College. And we also have with us my colleague Jessica Cabrera, also associate director ASAP at Bronx Community College. So today we wanted to share with you the goal of this particular presentation.
Mel,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
We want to let you all know that the session will be recorded. So feel free to turn off your cameras if you like, or, keep them on. And we'll be taking questions, at the end of the session. So feel free just to enjoy, I guess, the show as we present to you all. And we wanted, again, just thank you all, for being with us today. I agree with Melanie that it really is a pleasure to spend this portion of the day with you all. And then, yeah, I did not mean to zoom. Let's zoom out. Yep, that's not fun. Technical difficulties. We will just share again. And then we will go on to goals. All right. Ready, set, go. If it wants to work for us. There we go. There you go.
Virtual world. And so basically our goal, as I shared a little bit with you, is to share our reflections and our best practices during this time when we were supporting the team in, a virtual environment. And so Jessica's going to share with you our presentation objectives.
And we do want to note that we know that this is, of course, not, now it's something that's common now, right, amongst all of us as we are in this virtual world. But Melanie and I felt compelled to share our story. So we want to take more of a qualitative approach in sharing our story with you all. And of course, provide some best practices and some doses of data, as we discuss our experience. And we hope that our experience can lead to a conversation of best practices and just for our colleagues to be able to be in a space where we can discuss together. And these are the objectives that we came up with, right? So I kind of summarized that: supporting our staff, right, in this environment, supportive structures, right, for our teams, and innovative ways, again, to assess our needs in this environment.
So now we want to share a little story with you. So we want to walk you through our year being at home and working virtually, and what it was like being two supervisors overseeing a team of advisors and discussing their experience, because suddenly there was this pandemic, and suddenly we were asked to stay home, and suddenly we didn't know what staying home would, what would come about for all of us. So we, as a supervisors, when I was talking with Justin, we were creating this presentation, I was like, we were the omnipresent supervisors. And basically what that meant to me, and the concept when it came about, was we had to become the all ever present supervisor, accessible to the team, right? In as many different ways as possible. And we had to support, right? We had to be available on all different platforms. So we were everywhere. And that was like the running joke at the beginning was, you know where to find me. I'm on Teams, I'm in email, you can text me, we can FaceTime, we can WebEx, because we were using WebEx at the time, we can Zoom, you can send a bat signal, I will respond, and Jessica the same way, right? And then just continuous communication and providing information, sharing, just sharing. So it was really a matter of no advisor left behind, right? Making sure that our team was feeling supported and making sure that they had the tools that they needed to now provide the type of support that they were under demand for.
Yeah. Yeah, and we wanted to talk about this because so much of the focus, of course, was how to support our students.
Mhm.
And while they're an important piece, of what we do feel that our staff is just as important as well. And when our staff is supported and they feel that they have the tools and support to feel confident in their role in the new normal, that holds true to their everyday, right? And helping them feel that they can progress. So we wanted to make sure that we shed light, on that as well. And yep.
You wanted to go?
No.
Okay.
You're good.
We're collaborative. We're always checking in with each other. But we wanted to make sure that what matters to us continued, right? So our working style with our team, the foundation that we established already with our team, we wanted to ensure that that continued on into the virtual environment. And to be quite honest, established, healthy, intentional working relationships are key, especially during a time such as this, because the team was already comfortable with the idea of, our communication style, right? We have taught them, and we are also very adaptable, right? We function under situational leadership styles. We also function on the participative leadership styles. So, we believe in collaboration. We believe in the team and working with the team and making sure that, folks are, contributing and being a part of the conversation, wherever possible. We are definitely relational leaders. We make sure that we include them, we empower them. We're very intentional with the way in which we work with them. We model for them, behavior to ensure that, they are always putting their best foot forward. And we are also transformational leaders. We are encouraging, inspiring, and we motivate. At least we hope so. But overall, this was definitely one of the key things we wanted to share with folks, is that if we didn't have healthy, established relationships with our team members prior to this, I could definitely see greater hurdles ahead of us when we transitioned from working on campus into our virtual environment.
Yeah. And something that Melanie and I prescribe to, and we discuss often amongst the two of us and with our team, is the simple notion of being human, right? That's what we find that it does come down to, with the understanding that every member on the team at the end of the day is a human being that has different things that are going on with them. And we take that into account when we are working with them, especially in such a time as we are going through now. That's even more vital than ever.
So now we're talking about the advisors, right? We were the omnipresent, but they had to be the omniscient advisor, right? They needed to know everything, because with this transition, the highest demands for advising and support, it just grew, right? It just leaped by, it just grew into this huge demand. And a lot of pressure and a lot of leaning started to happen on the advising units across campus. And they basically became the backbone to the college. They were the folks that the students were looking to for guidance, because they themselves were going through so much, and they needed to know it. It's a moment where you become disoriented, because one minute you're going to campus and you're taking classes and you're in the classroom with your professor, and suddenly you're home and you may not even have the tools and the resources that you need in order to continue to function, because this all happened in the middle of our semester. It didn't even happen, in the winter or in the summer. This happened smack in the middle, where CUNY itself was recalibrating. Professors now had to figure out, how they were going to take their courses and transition them online, how they were going to engage students. So advisors just became so important and became a really central focus of the college, upper administration, students, us, their supervisors, like everyone now had a lens focused on advisement in order to support our students and retain our students, and keep them, going in such a time, such a challenging time that they were, experiencing.
And that amount of pressure on top of the pressure already that we were all facing was one that we wanted to make sure that we were recognizing and understanding as we were working, with the team during these times. So then we will go. So we're going to go now to supervisor for 800. So in the chat, I'm going to put a link for everyone to what we call Padlet. And we would like to get your thoughts on what makes a good supervisor. And I will share our screen for that. And you can just type it in. And we just wanted to get the thoughts of the group. I will open that up. Oh, you already are doing it. Awesome. Thank you. Good listener. We have supportive, empathy, committed, respectful, the nuts and bolts, compassion, patience. We see a lot of empathy, patience, encouragement, listening. Yep. Awesome. Jumps in when needed. Trust. Yep. Respectful, understanding. Great. Oh, they're coming in.
Honest. Someone wrote honest in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Input. Yes. Ask for input, but yes. Agreed. Yep. You're listening to it, consider it. Proactive. Awesome. Great. And then we can, of course, we'll come back to this towards the end of our presentation so we can get all of this together and we can share it with the organizers of the event because we can create a printable version of this. We just wanted, again, to gauge what the group views as what makes a good supervisor, seeing us as humans, yep, inclusive, responsive, yes, yes. Awesome. Me by example. Okay. Awesome. And then we will share our screen again. And we'll go back to our wonderful Prezi. Great. We'll go there. So thank you for that. Of course, no presentation would not be complete with some sort of an icebreaker. So we wanted to make sure that we included that in there. And we just wanted to, again, get your thoughts because it's important as we're discussing how we helped our team survive and thrive. And it's important for us to discuss the notion of a partnership, right? No one is in this alone, right? We are all somewhat connected and the perception of that varies, right? So that's why we wanted to get the consensus from the group as to what your thoughts are regarding supervision. So we'll go on to the next. And we want to give a bit of context about us and our advisement structure at Bronx Community College, specifically in the ASAP program. So how many full-time advising staff do we have? We have 23, and I think Melanie wanted to discuss our junior staff as well.
We also have 2 junior advisors. We just didn't add them to the 23 because they were not full-time. But they also played an integral role in supporting us during the time that we were online in the virtual environment. And so in total, with the inclusion of them, it would be 25 folks that we were overseeing within the advising staff.
And then we have 2,777 students in the program presently. And then where do we fall? So we do mean that we are right in the middle. We are considered middle management, right? So we're right in the middle of our advising staff and then the leadership.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of our time negotiating and listening and trying to help folks meet in the middle, right? So we can work towards the goals of the institution, and of the program. The same goes for our advising staff as well. They're in the middle when it comes to their students and to working with Mel and I directly as well. So again, that just goes to show how everyone really is in this together. And then brief history, we won't go completely into it, but Melanie and I, we have been working in the ASAP program and at BCC. Melanie's starting her 9th year, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, okay. And then and I'm starting my 8th year. And we both were academic advisors in ASAP. And then we transitioned to associate directors. So we wanted to provide that context because we do find that to be, at least in our experience, a bit unique in the sense that we were in the very roles that our staff are in the program.
It also helped with the empathetic part and the understanding and the advocacy when it came down to having to take that on, because of the understanding in which because of the understanding of the amount of work that they do during a normal time, right? And now during this new normal, it also helped us to have that perspective in order to better assist them and support them during this time.
All right. Awesome. We're going to next.
So basically, these were the hurdles in which we had to address immediately, right? Like I shared earlier, we had to transition, and we had to transition quickly. What I wanted to add to this part, in relationship to systems and processes not being established, we function in a way where we were always thinking ahead, and we were always in an innovative state of mind as a team. And so with that being said, we didn't see the pandemic happening. We didn't foresee the pandemic happening. But we did see, we were in a space where we were actually implementing new functions into the team, right? Because our concern was, our retention and engaging students. And so we're always talking about that. How do we better engage our students? And so when we were doing that, we had already started a system of utilizing Google Text. We already had a system in place where we were not using Zoom, but at that time we were using Skype and FaceTime. We had iPads. So the advisors were already functioning in that way prior to us moving into a virtual environment. So now it was just a matter of stepping all of those extras into the forefront, right? So now these were their primary ways of functioning with students and meeting with students. But we had to really, be ready to support this team as we waited for the college also to get established with, systems and processes. How are we going to engage with, our other departments on campus, professors, financial aid, registrar, all these places that, students would just take a walk over to talk to someone. How do we get students connected now to these things? How do we get students to understand what they need to do for class? Blackboard, whatever other systems might be being used to teach a course. So that was one hurdle, right? Another hurdle was managing emotions. At the beginning, I would say now our team is pretty settled at this point, and I think that we are all, pretty settled in the way in which we function. That doesn't mean that it's devoid of pressure or any of what I'm going to discuss, but it's just minimized, right? Susan just shared, she's one of our advisors. She said, yes, emotions are all over the place.
Yeah,
And so during that time, and Jess can also chime in, we had to really, address the things they too were going through. It wasn't just
absolutely.
students, right? It's us too. We are now adjusting to children being at home. We are now adjusting to homeschooling and talking to your students in a meeting, and the
Yeah,
demands of a toddler that doesn't understand that mommy's working or daddy's working, right?
yeah,
And then also, we're home now, but we can't go out, right? They're telling us not to go out. So we have to stay home. And what does that do to our minds, during the day? And then we're extending hours now. Now we're
yeah,
talking to students at any time of the day. And whenever, the student might chime in or a Google text might come in, we'll answer. And it could be like 10 o'clock at night, right?
yep,
And minimizing emotional distress that may also involve using now, like Zoom. Everyone's not tech savvy, and that's okay. But now you have to talk people through, how to use the tools that maybe they didn't use as much when they were on campus, and now these new tools, right? Their
yeah,
computers may not be up to par. They may not have, we're used to having printers and printing something out, and now we can't. And we got to go to Staples if Staples was open at that time, right? Because it may
yeah,
have been closed down as well. But really, managing their emotions. And I think that, Jess and I split the team, but I can share for myself that too can become overwhelming for us because we have to, we are available, we are accessible, we are there for
mhm,
them. I know I've spent
yeah,
time even talking to folks at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and just kind of like supporting them in whatever it is that they wanted to say, venting, complaining, strategizing, really being there for them. Jess, I don't
yeah,
know if you want to add anything
yeah.
to that.
Yeah, no, I was just waiting till you
Yeah.
finished. Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I'm going back to the point I made earlier about being human because they're going through all this and they're also being asked at the same time, not directly by us, but to function as if things are just normal, right? Like still produce at the same rate that you always did, despite that all this is happening. And for myself personally, and I'll say for Melanie, because again, we are unique in our role that we have the same role. We know that that's just not the case. Melanie gave lots of examples, also from power going out to also the the staff were also the clutches for our students. The students were going through some heavy things as well, and then they were divulging to their trusted advisor what's going on, and then we were there for them as well. So also recognizing that, and something that I had shared with the team directly was that they are really the retention piece. They retained our students. They got our students through the pandemic and still happening, but they are the number one reason why the students stayed, despite the issues with Blackboard, despite the issues with CUNY First, despite it all, because they trusted them. And there were a lot of vulnerable and personal moments that were shared, with the team that can be heavy on them. And we saw it as being genuinely there for the team and recognizing that and understanding that we don't expect perfection, right? We just hope that you bring your best foot forward, as they did and then continue to do. And even months, year later, we're still going through some pretty heavy times. We've experienced some really serious matters the past couple of weeks amongst our family of the team. And we were working through those things, but we won't go through every single point on here, but we wanted to touch upon some of the key areas that we wanted to share. And I know as we saw the names in the session, a lot of you are working directly and managing your own teams, and some of you are part of these teams. So we know that a lot of you can recognize and understand, some of the things that we are speaking to.
And just really quickly, I just wanted to add the no advisor is an island. And what does that mean? Basically, what that meant was that because we were shifting to a virtual environment where in great or increased independence was occurring, where all of us, we were, isolated from one another, where we're not in a physical space together. You could start feeling like you're on an island alone. And it was important for us to make sure that we connected with the team so that they understood that though they were working alone per se with their caseload daily, that we were always there for them and that they were not alone and they should not feel that they can't reach out to us when they needed us. Mhm.
Okay. Yes, the fun part we can discuss.
So we
Wanna,
started
yep,
to, you wanted, sorry, Jess, I keep jumping over, I apologize.
all
Uh,
yours.
but we wanted to maintain community, right? We definitely had a community prior to shifting to a virtual environment. And so we started to, we wanted to get our team to a place where they felt secure and they felt settled, right? That though this was all occurring, that they were functioning in a way where it felt as normal as it could possibly feel, right? And so we implemented different efforts to try and maintain that community. And we had Wellness Wednesdays. We recently, renamed our Wednesday meetings. But prior to this, I just wanted to add that we were meeting with the team the first few months, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday
Friday.
at 10 a.m. in the morning. And not for long. It wasn't to drag out anything. It was just definitely trying to maintain communication, continued expression of expectation, and just touching base with the entire team, letting everyone see one another, and being able to engage with one another. Of course, as we settled, we reduced the amount of meetings to now Wednesdays. We went back to our normal schedule as if we were on campus, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Go ahead,
Absolutely.
Eddie. You want to share what else?
And then we had some things that may not sound unique, but for us they were fun. We did, and some of these things that you see listed here we're not doing anymore, but some we did start off with. So we had lunchtime Zoom where anyone could just drop in, and we didn't talk about work. We were just eating. Hi, how are you? Folks would come in, come out. We did workout sessions before the start of the workday. We just went with what the needs were of the team at the time. We have a text chat that we say hello, we give updates on. We do say good morning in those group texts that we have. And it's like an informal check-in because the team doesn't necessarily have to check in via the group chat. Sometimes they just talk to Mel and I directly and not necessarily check in the sense, we know that you're here, we know that you're progressing in your day, but it's just a way again for the team to engage, right? It's not us monitoring at all. It's more so for just a friendly dynamic for everyone to say, hey, good morning before our days get busy. Whereas in person, we would do that, right? And greet each other, maybe like in our main offices and our offices. So we have that as just a system in place to make it just informal and relaxed. And then one thing I want to point out is when Melanie was discussing hurdles, when we're the point of leadership roles assumed, we had discussed the notion of we have a big team, right? So we do have a big team. And what I shared is everyone on the team, Melanie and I know what their strengths are. Everyone brings so much to the table in contributing to what the team really represents, right? And I find that with the pandemic and with the virtual world, everyone's strengths really came to light and everyone really shined, meaning that everyone has always been a rock star. But now because we're working in these individual, roles that we're in, you really get to see the highlight of it, right? I can't name all 23 of what everyone's doing. We know some of them are on here, but I really did want to bring that part up that it really, you didn't have to necessarily be maybe per se the loudest, right? But your work really spoke for itself and everyone really came together in supporting, and we still are supporting everyone's individual efforts and or collaborative efforts as well. So that's something that we had discussed that we wanted to just bring up as an example.
And then I just wanted to address Deborah Cisco. She's asking about whether there were 23 full-time advisors in total for BCC. No, this is for ASAP. This is for the ASAP team that we are discussing today. However, I believe, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's about 50 advisors in total on campus.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
in various advisement units.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
so for us, our program, we're servicing 2,777 students. And then also, Sophia, I hope I said your name correctly. You asked, how did you manage the volume of updates that came from the campus community and the constant change? So at the beginning, and Jess, you can chime in as well, we are everywhere. So we utilize our text, we utilize email, and we also utilize Teams. And what I found, and Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, different sets of folks respond to different areas in those communications. So, you know, some of our team was more responsive to email, some were more responsive to the Teams, some were more responsive to the text. And that's the reason why we were able to provide that information. But what was really great, and I want to share this about the college itself, BCC. Once we all started to get systems in place, the silos sometimes that we existed on in campus, they just kind of disappeared. And so the communication flow between the advising team, the registrar, admissions, financial aid, and with each other, right? Because I said there are other units, advising units, it started to meld so well. And the conversations and the information sharing, like people were really becoming community more so than being in person. And my hopes, and I share this with folks all the time, is that we don't lose that once we go back to campus. Because I think that this, if anything, if there's a silver lining anywhere, would be that we definitely saw an increased level of community, sense of community, and working with one another. I hope that answers the question. Jess, do you want to add anything to that?
No, definitely, absolutely. And that's a bigger, definitely conversation to have separate from our program, because I feel that we can have a whole other like presentation on that, to be honest, in the sense that I'll give one example of like that communication piece. So we manage our campus advising unit advising meeting, right? Where all the units come together and we get presentations from academic affairs, from different departments. And so like what Melanie was sharing, right? Those silos were not a barrier anymore, because for us and in the culture of our institution, that was big for us to be able to have these interdepartmental like connections happen, right? Where everyone's together and all the supervisors, all the staff, everyone's getting the same information at the same time, right? And is answering the questions at the same time. And we're not just piecemeals, right? We're like, hey, I heard this. Oh, by the way, you didn't get that email? Oh, you don't have that link? We were in the same house, in the same place.
I'm gonna save the questions for the end so we can get through the rest of our slides, so we can then have a genuine dialogue with all of you, because we do want to hear about your own experiences, because I'm sure you all have many experiences to share with us as well. But just wanted to let you know really quickly, the one-on-one meetings, we always had those on campus. So we just continue to have those meetings as well. And for me and Jess, it's very important because it also allowed, for me, I'll speak for myself right at the second, it allowed me to see their faces. It allowed me to talk to them outside of just a text, where I asked them, are you doing okay? Because I noticed maybe something in them gave me inkling that they were feeling anxious or overwhelmed. So when I would do the one-on-one meetings, though they're telling me that they're okay, I could see their faces and say, you know what, you're not okay. Let's talk about what's going on. And let's talk it through, and let's get you to a place where you're feeling better. Because ultimately, if the staff wasn't feeling better, the students were not going to get the service that they needed.
Yep, absolutely. It all we gotta take care of our team, right? So that's what it comes down to. And I echo those sentiments that Melanie shared. But I'm gonna go on to the next area and we can discuss more. We're almost there. We're gonna go to some data. We're not heavy on the data, but we wanted to show you. Our assistant dean provides an enrollment report, right? And this is just a sample of one of them that we received in the fall semester. So we received a number of these, right? But we want to show you, right, where we fall into this. Okay, so we do have the ASAP program here. And what we wanted to focus on, because we know this is busy, we wanted to focus on the advisement contacts from the caseload. So some context for you, for an ASAP advisor, a typical number for a caseload is around 150 students, right? Where they are expected to make contact with their students twice a month, right? So what we wanted to show here was the percentage was 98% here. And what we found when we looked through the enrollment reports that the dean had provided to us is that month to month, we went from 95% to 96, 97, and 98, right? So of course, there's some factors that are involved in this, right? As Melanie was sharing, we have better support structures in place. The students, right, we're getting a better handle, right, on navigating this new normal. However, we do want to discuss that the stronger support that the team had and the more comfortable that they also felt, this correlates to the percentages, right, of increase. Because of course, we did have students that, despite our efforts, right, we were not able to get in touch with, right? So efforts meaning emails, phone calls, text messages, and not just from the advisor, from associate directors, from our staff who are maintaining the virtual front desk and so forth. So we want to share this snippet of this because we found that the data proved to be interesting, where it could have been the opposite, right? We could have had a downward trend where it could have went down to like 80% and so forth. But that is something that we did want to share. And of course, we can discuss our data and other areas that we use to pull data later in the presentation, because our program is data heavy. But we just wanted to bring this up in the context of our theme of, supporting and helping our team to, thrive and survive. Melanie, do you want to add anything to that area?
No.
All right. All right. Next, go ahead.
Sorry, I was saying I'm helping someone thrive and thrive right now. Sorry, everyone.
Next, we're gonna go to gratitude. So these are just an example. I do want to state that we have a number of thank you notes from students, but these are just a sample of some of them. We can zoom into some just so you could get an idea of the gratitude that the students had for their team, right? We'll go here. This one was, I remember when we got this one was great. And we're bringing this up because this is something that we actually discussed in one of our sessions yesterday, Melanie, that when you're going through a time of crisis, right? And it just seems like everything is just being thrown your way. You start to question, not always, right? But a bigger percentage, you start to question what your role is, right? And like, what are you doing? Like, is what I'm doing, does it matter? Like, what's my purpose, right? Like, am I contributing? And we wanted to bring this up because a lot of the times we're dealing with the heavy stuff, right? And when you're dealing with the heavy stuff, sometimes it's hard to like crawl out and see the light and to see where you fall in the bigger picture, right? A lot of the work that the team does, we discussed, they find that they're not contributing to the macro, for example, right? And they very well are. It's just the perspective of where you're coming from and seeing how you actually are an integral piece of the bigger picture. You are a crucial piece of this puzzle, right? And the work that they do day in and day out really, really speaks to just, again, the retention of our students, the need for them wanting to stay. And these notes definitely like represent that, right? That though they were going through so much, they really made a difference, and they may not have seen it and or felt it, but their work really spoke for themselves. Maybe not at that moment when they were going through the motions of things and there was frustration of, hey, Melanie and Jess, I'm trying to get in touch with this area and I can't. What do I do? You know, you don't want to let the folks down that you're serving. However, you're not letting them down, right? You're really doing the best that you can for them. So we wanted to bring this up because as much as Mel and I can, you know, thank our team for what they do, right? When you get a note like this on a long day, right, where you just feel like today was a day, and you get a note from a student that's thanking you, it really brings like hope and just reinforcement of I matter. What I do matters. There's a purpose here, and you know what? This is not the everyday, right? So we just wanted to share that piece with you all.
Yeah. Perspective matters, right? It puts everything in perspective.
And then now we can get to the fun part of those are our email addresses if you need to reach us. But we definitely would be happy, you know, to take questions. Mel, I can stop sharing the screen and put our emails in the chat so we can see everyone.
Yes, that'll be awesome.
Okay.
I just wanted to actually read Aaliyah Fraser's question to us. She said, now that we are over a year in working remotely, how do you help advisors with burnout? And what check-ins and support do you provide to advisors aside from your Wednesday meetings?
Awesome. Do you want to take it or you want me to take it?
I'm sure you can as well.
Yeah.
Well,
definitely.
Basically, we didn't say this earlier, but you know, when we were for our first summer, where we were working from home, right? Folks were asking, "Are you even taking annual time?" And I was like, "Yes." And the reason being was that you still need to disconnect, right? So a lot of what has been occurring now is just really getting folks to get comfortable with that disconnection, right? Ensuring that they're not working long hours, ensuring that they're maintaining boundaries, that though they are home, you don't have to be accessible to everyone after a certain time, right? That you can, in fact, take time off if you need it. And making sure that they were doing self-care. Like, you know, when we would leave on the weekend, you know, I know for me and just as well, when we write to them and we say good night, have a wonderful weekend, you know, it's like, do something good for yourself, do something fun, go for a walk, go outside. This may sound menial, but it really isn't, because folks were not doing it. And then that was also contributing. Make time for your family. Make sure you're spending time with folks. You know, make sure you're making time for yourself. You know, we're all experiencing our own personal pressures. And so that also, you know, creates burnout as well, right? Because we're not taking care of ourselves. So it really was, you know, that was one method. But Jess, do you have anything else that you would like to share?
I would say an advantage is that we've known our folks for some time, but like Melanie was saying, when I would talk to them, I know some of the things that they like to do. Mm-hmm. So I would ask them. A lot of us on the team were walkers and we love the sun. So I would ask them, hey, did you go out for a walk today? Because I'm a morning person, so I really like do that early. So I would, hey, I went out for a walk. Did you do this today? Just like engaging with them, you know, and it being genuine. It wasn't just like we were trying to get points, right? It's just like, hey, like, you doing well today? Did you get some air? You know, how's that going? Mm-hmm. Also, like I do like a voice note. We've been doing this for a year now. I do a voice note check-in with the team individually every morning, right? It's just like, hey, how are you? Like, we catch up. And it ranges from what I'm discussing with them, giving them updates, because that would pretty much mirror my office, right? I'd be sitting in the office in the morning, everyone would come in, check in and say hi. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start doing that because I like to hear voices and see folks. Texting for me doesn't do it. So I started that with them, and I'm going to say I believe that they found that to be helpful, because some days when I was off and I come back, someone will comment to me, hey, I missed a voice note, right? Because again, it's just like connecting like with them and so forth. So those are things like besides the, I hope that answers the question, besides the Wednesday meetings, we do have personalized ways that we, you know, connect with each member. And that's what I'm going to say. There's no one way, because every member of our team has different needs. And for you to be able to understand that is helpful, because I don't think that I would be as effective if, quote unquote, I treated everyone, so to speak, the same in the sense, right? Like we have tasks, right? Like, hey, we have to see such and such students this evening for registration. You know, we're going through the motions of that. But when it comes to them individually, like as a person, I'm going to treat you individually, and the understanding of my tone that I'm using, how I work with you, interests, like, and so forth. So I think that's been, and Melanie the same, right? A contributing factor to helping.
I don't know if you had joined us earlier, but we did definitely discuss the different ways in which that we were interacting with the team. So the Wednesday meetings was just an entire team, advising team meetup, but because we both supervised, you know, half the team each, we always are, you know, one-on-ones, you know, speaking to them daily. Whoever needed the most attention that day would get it, right? They would call and they would be, you know, can you talk to me now? Sure, I can, you know, or if we were busy, because we're not just sitting around waiting for them to call us, right? We're busy doing other tasks and doing other things, but, you know, just letting them know, give me a few moments, we'll talk. So it's always just a really a flow of communication. I think I heard somewhere where someone asked a question about what do you do if you haven't heard from your staff member within 2 weeks time? And my mouth kind of just dropped when I heard that, because I was like, what do you mean you didn't hear from your team and it's been 2 weeks, you know, in my head, because that's like unheard of. Like I hear from everyone all the time. And so, and it's not a matter of micromanaging, it's just that is our communication flow. That is the way in which that we are with our team. So the idea of people just getting lost in the sauce is really like, doesn't really make any sense. It didn't make sense to me. It didn't compute. It didn't process. And so, you know, but yes, definitely. Just to answer your question really quickly, because I know it's 3:20, it's 2:22. We try our best to continuously just support the team and be there and just really staying in tune with what their needs are. And if we do see that folks are stressing or burning out, we try to figure out a way in which to support them better, so that they can function better.
Yeah. I don't know if we had one more question that I had got. I don't know if there was time for that. It's not in the, I got it to me. I'll say, a question for later, how did your team effectively support you? You as managers in the middle work so hard to support everyone else. You also need support.
I would say that, sorry that we got quiet. I just had to process myself. I think that Jess and I, you know, we know how to like reach out to our folks, right? And we have that skill. I think we are communicators, and so I think that we would go to our director, our assistant dean, and to each other. We would support each other. You know, we might meet together and just kind of like talk about our day, you know, for a little while, you know, and set time aside just to have a conversation about, you know, how things are going with one another. And I think that we've always felt supported. We are definitely, you know, folks listen to us when we're advocating for the team, when we're feeling stressed, when we want to express any, you know, messaging that might be coming from other areas that we didn't appreciate. We would definitely reach out, you know, or feel that we had the space to say, hey, this is ridiculous, or you know, this is unfair, this is not correct, this is unjust. You know, I use those kind of words, but I'm not that I'm like, you know, crybaby. But when I'm like, you know, want to share a sentiment,
absolutely,
I use those kind of words with my supervisor, and just feeling that I have an open forum and you know, an ability to continue to have that way of expressing myself. I can't say that I did not feel supported during this time. That would be truly unfair to say something like that about anyone. because I think that we all really worked really hard to be there for one another during this.
Hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely agree. And then I will hone on the point that we know that in roles, this dynamic is unique in the sense where Melanie is the only other person that's doing the same exact role that I'm doing in the makeup of our program. So we really lean on each other quite a bit when it comes to just, talking things through. And I'm very expressive as well, hence why we're doing this session together. But if there is something that is also that I feel is, unjust or just not sitting well and we need to like problem solve this together, I've always been very comfortable as well, and expressing those sentiments. But if you mean if there was like an actual check-in on me, yeah, like absolutely. Like for Mel and I, yes, just how we're doing like overall. Yeah, definitely we did receive that and
Similar,
still receive that.
similar structures. The way that we are with the team, same similar structures exist with us and our supervisor. I don't want to cut us short. I'm loving this right now, but we do have to end because our next session is about to start, and we want to give time because it's also our colleagues too. So we're excited to hear from them. But I want to thank all of you so much. You can reach us.
Thank you.
Shared our emails. And we're also on LinkedIn. If you want to grab us, go ahead and do that as well. And thank you again. It was sincerely a pleasure to present our experience to all of you.